Hi everybody, welcome to take 4 of making the lid for the Coroplast box in the last segment. So hopefully you saw the last part where we made the base for the box, so this time we're going to make the lid. So it's pretty straightforward and very similar to the last box, the last part that we did, essentially, but I just want to show you the diagram quickly. Okay, so in this diagram, I want to just emphasize that the inner dimensions, we're adding 5 thicknesses of board to each side. So when we did the paper box last year, we added 3 thicknesses of board to the inside. So again, we want this to be 1.5 centimeters larger for each dimension. So for us, our box is 13 by 23 by 9. So we're adding 1.5 centimeters on both. So our inners are 24.5 by 14.5. We need it to be that much larger because of adding that screw on the outside and making it just that much wider, plus accommodating to having the lid be bigger than the box. And the outer dimensions are still the same. Okay, so I'll wait for the camera to pan around. Okay, so just as before, when we're working with making a 2-part box, is that the beauty of it is all you need to know are your outer dimensions. So exactly the same, we just need 9.3 centimeters on all sides. And really straightforward to work with. So after we finished the last box and we had shut off the camera, the group consensus was that this was a much nicer box to have, that the screws added a real sense of rigidity to the container, and it was very quick and easy to do, which I totally agree with. I also think that the cost of the container is pretty cost effective, and I was just costing it out today that a 48 by 96 inch sheet of board costs around $15. So it's very cost effective, and again, the material doesn't off-gas or change, be around. Some people have expressed some concerns if there was ever a fire or disaster. I like the fact that it is essentially water resistant if you ever had your sprinklers turn on. However, some people have said that essentially Coroplast can melt in certain heat, but really I think overall, if you had a disaster at all, you have much bigger problems at hand. So it's one of those things you have to sort of pick your battles. Okay, so again, I'm just working with the back edge of the knife, so it's the dull side, which you can see adds a really nice line to what you're doing. All right, so just as before, we have the same directions of the corrugations, so you want to make sure you are aware of what direction your boards are going in before you do any trimming. Again, because it's a lid and we're going to make the lid the same depth as the box, I want to make sure we add thumb cuts now as opposed to later when everything's screwed together. So if you have a coin in your pocket and you want to trace it, you could do that. Let's see, I think I have a toonie. Oh, one just magically appeared. Okay, so if you are not really good at eyeing and eyeballing things, you can thank you for the magic toonie that magically appeared. You can just draw a rough shape. That works absolutely fine. I'm just sort of eyeballing it across. And again, I'm just going sort of halfway to the circle.
Can I keep the magic toonie?
Okay. You can take it up after the film. All right, so you can see we have these rough lines in the board. So I'm going to cut them out first. You can hear the toonie goes flying. So again, the other thing to keep in mind, as I've said, is that Coroplast can be sharp. So it may be a bit of a factor when you work with it. This isn't too bad. Come on. Oops. Great. There. Okay, so now we have our thumb cuts ready to go. Okay, so again, because we're making this the box, we want to make sure that we add a little bit of width on all 4 corners. So I'm gonna draw it out because a lot of people find this part confusing. Where do you add your extra? So you're gonna add it basically closer to the cut edge of your board. So we're gonna add it on this side, this side, this side, this side. Yeah. I know that part just gets people confused. If you wanted to put a pencil line, you could. Again, I'm just gonna eyeball it. And because I'm just gonna do my line across. But again, don't cut this piece by accident, because then you'd have to start over. Okay, so again, we're just gonna cut, or do our cut on this line. We're going right to the corner, okay? And then when we cut this side, we're gonna cut from this line out. So again, here to the corner and up, okay? I know people find that part a little confusing. No problem. You want to make sure that you have a really nice sharp blade too. It's just a reminder before you start working to snap your old blades off. Okay, so I'm just going to line it up. Because I'm using a long ruler, just getting it all organized. I don't know, for me the least amount that I have to move the ruler, the easier it is. A little bit of a trim, it's fine. And again, if you don't like this and you want to go back and make it a little bit tighter, you can absolutely do that. Okay, so you can see my original score, you can see the width. I might go back on that one, that's okay. All right, so to show that off in comparison. Okay, so again, we're just going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Got my little pencil marks, just lining it up. If you are OCD and you want to measure it, by all means, just find after working with millimeters, it doesn't make that big of a difference. If you want to use these for coasters or something after, by all means. All right, so now we're ready to go. Again, when we're scoring into the folds. Okay. Very easy. This one takes a bit more pressure, so you want to put your hand down, and then again when you're bending against the corrugations, I suppose when you're bending with it. Okay, so again we're using our number 6 screws. I'm going to use 2, 4, 6, 8 screws to keep it together. For the purpose of the demo, I will just put in a couple screws to start with. Okay, so again, we're working on our outer walls, just like before. If you want, you can work this way too. You don't have to. If you find it too tricky to sort of balance yourself, you can just set this down flat. Let's see. I'm gonna work this here. Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm just prepping this. I'm gonna apply a little bit of pressure. This one doesn't look very nice, but it's okay. You see, so it's just starting to poke out the bottom. This is going a little bit faster than I anticipated, so I'll put them in. I'll put all of them in. So once you get the hang of it, you can actually make a box fairly quickly. It's just the math that's the trickiest part. But for a custom container, it's pretty good. The other thing I was suggesting before we did the demo was that if you want to, if you end up making your lid the same size as your base, that you do have the ability to have a bit of a telescoping effect. And if you're wanting to cheat a little bit, you could put a couple of boards on the inside and tweak the height of your box. If you're concerned about the cost to make a new box, if you wanted to eventually add a couple of items, and that way everything is still protected. The other thing as well is that if you end up having a box, you make a box and then you don't like it, doesn't turn out, maybe you don't use it, that you can always take it apart and reuse the screws. I mean, I know screws aren't that expensive, but it's just another thing to keep in mind. Oops. It's the last one. All right, everybody in YouTube land, thank you for your patience. Okay, so now we've got this ready to go really quick. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bend the center part up and then we're going to put the screws in. If you had a drill, you could make this go even faster. But, I mean, because of the ease of the screws, oops, I say this and the screw keeps falling out. And it goes fairly quickly anyways. Okay, so this one again, you want to watch the direction of the screw. You sometimes have to tweak the angle a little bit just to make sure that it works. You can also peek inside the container as you go, because sometimes you accidentally poke it right through. The other thing I suggest if you end up making a mistake and you unscrew it is to just start a new hole. I mean, it does pretty good, but you do damage the plastic. So again, I'm just going to poke that right through. Oops, this one's on a bit of an angle. Actually, I'm going to take this one right out. When I folded this together, it sort of made a bit of a funny edge. So I'll tweak that after the demo. You can also tweak a little bit where it aligns up. I mean, if you want it to be perfectly square and trim it, you can. Because it's the lid, if you want it to be a little bit wider, it does have some give. So you can actually just align it with your thumb and figure out where you want it to hit. So I go as quickly as I can. Okay, so last one, again, I'm going to push this out just slightly, bend this up, put these together. Starting with the bottom one, it's a bit more of a pain. It's fitting in okay. If you do a lot of these, I would consider buying screws in bulk, but I bought about 300 screws for about $15. Which would make a lot of containers. So, gives you lots of options. If you were concerned about whatever you were housing and you wanted to put, use different types of materials based on what's inside, and you could get different colors of Coroplast or do white versus translucent, so you can be a little bit more organized how you do it. Okay. So, last two, going super quickly. You can see I've just rubbed a little bit against the edge. It's starting to score a little bit as you go. So you can see what happens. But it still works fine. Alright, last screw. Where's the original container that we made? Is it around?
Cass's box right there.
No. The base is right here. I'm just gonna demonstrate how it all fits together at the end. We can show with that one too, actually, if you guys are curious. You want it? Can we see Cassandra's box?
Yeah, because I think that's the size thing.
Yeah. Okay, terrific. So, all right, we've got the lid ready to go. Looks pretty good, pretty square. So two things. The point of the size, well, we want it to fit around the original sample box we did in the spring. So I wanted it to have a little bit of play, but it fits quite nicely. And then the moment of truth, where we hold our breath. Woo, and feel fine. All right. Thank you.
To quote Tori.